Right, this is just a quick overview of the lace cross I showed here a couple of weeks ago. Things have actually developed quite a bit further from what I'm showing you here as far as how I'm doing these, but I'll just be useful for you to see perhaps some part of the journey. Following on from the last two crosses, I find it's really critical to get all your miters exactly right, and also the actual material, the stock material you use on all the pieces need to be exactly the same. Otherwise you'll have gaps forming on where your miters are. So yeah, that's one of the problems I was having. So what I decided to do then is, rather than cut just a part, I actually added this part, the ends, actually onto the end of the stock, and that way that part is actually the same thickness, same width exactly as the miter is going to form on there. Okay, so in CAD this is basically what it looks like. So you got the yellow part, which is the long strip. Let me grab one of those. There we go. So so this is like for the long vertical. So I've actually purposely made it too long so I can cut the ends out the top there, and then that way when I form the miter, the material thickness is exactly the same. Thickness and width is exactly the same. So on the ends I made it bigger on the top, and then for the other side I made it bigger on the bottom. You see on this one here it's bigger on the bottom for the end to fall into that place there. So to cut them on the first couple I just used the miter saw and jigged it, and even with that, you know, you've got to be really careful, and again, unless it's absolutely spot on, I was struggling with gaps and glue up problems. So I'm going to do these ones on the CNC this time, so I've made a little jig to house the parts. Fortunately enough, the actual ratios, so these parts actually aren't handed. So I mean the tall, I'll call them the columns, the verticals, they aren't actually handed. You can make two of exactly the same and just flip one over and it forms the two, and the same with these. And also the relationship between from the center point to the top and to the ends the same as well. So when I was making the jig for these, I could actually just reuse all the geometry. So there's only two basically hold down, so I need to cut all the miters on this. I also added another 20 mil onto the beginnings and the ends of all the material and the spacing, and that what I found was when I cut these before on the CNC, basically there's a tendency for the little end bits to just move ever so slightly, just as during the final cutting through, and then you end up with a gouge on your miter. So I've given myself a lot more space and not been so stingy with the material. Here I'm showing some time lapse of the CNC doing this thing. The blank block has been previously flattened and thickness down to 20 mil. I did part of this on the CNC machine as well. And then once the parts have been cut and broken out from the blank, it was just a case of running the trim rail around to remove all the little nubs that held it all together. So this is a jig I designed to cut the miters really accurately. The way it works is the bit with the long bit on, I can stick in here and it'll cut. So it'll cut across here, so do the miter there to form this part here. And then I'll put a miter on there to start the beginnings of this section here. Yeah. So the only bit left to cut on this one would be this side, yeah. And then on a part of the same toolpath cut, I can pop the other side of this. Remember, I said these aren't actually handed, because you just turn them around and that forms the opposite kind of thing. So I'll put that one there like that, and then on this side I can drop this one here and here, and then I'll cut those, and then I'll just take this one out, swap them around, and it'll cut the other side. Same basically goes for the tops, for the big verticals, the vertical strips. And again, I didn't cut these the same because I wanted the top there to come around and miter part of this piece of wood. And then again on the bottom, it'll come around, the end will be this piece here, it'll come around something like that, if that makes any sense. Here we can see the CNC cutting the miters. Just pay attention to the direction that I'm feeding. So I'm feeding from the bottom up. I did attempt doing the other way around, and what I found was all the forces were actually trying to push the part out of the jig. So I'm holding the parts in with some double-sided tape now, and it works great. Okay, so as far as jigging up, all I've got is basically just routed out across all the pieces need to go, and then I just drop the pieces in. I'll be epoxying these. I've tried wood glue and CA, but it just wasn't strong enough. The CA is really brittle, so it just wasn't strong enough. So pop those in. I'm trying to do this one hand. There we go. Yeah, and then I've got a little bit of a gap at the top, so I just stick one of these sticks in there, just wedges it in, and that we're just going to hold it all in place while the glue sets up. And then you can make this whole piece first, and then these bits you can sort of thread these bits through. So I might actually. So last time I glued up this piece first, go to sand, got it all nice and tidy. Then I did. Then I put it back in the thing and threaded these pieces through, and I did all the four corners at the same time. And it's a bit fiddly, so I might see about doing one corner getting one finished like that and the other one finished like that, and then I've just got two joints to worry about inside the jig. But what I'll do is I'll jig it up and see how it feels. Once the glue is removed, I've taken the sub-assembly, I suppose you could call it a sub-assembly, out of the jig. I just run some sandpaper around the edges to ease the corners, and just tidy up the miters if they need tidying up. I really want the cross to have a really nice tactile feel when it's finished and polished. So, when you're holding it, it actually feels comforting. Here I am just doing a quick dry fit of all the parts. So we've got that sub-assembly that I had already glued up. So just a case of threading the parts through and making sure everything is what I expect it to be before I mix the epoxy. This is my first video for my new YouTube channel, Home Farm Studios. If you enjoyed the content, do us a favour and give us a like and a follow. I'll greatly appreciate it. I've also changed the jig, so I've cut away a lot of the material around the cross jig. That's so I can get in with some clamps, just some normal spring clamps. So just hold everything nice and tight while the glue sets. This has really helped. Then we could move on to mixing the epoxy and applying it to the glue joints. So it's really important that a bit of care is taken here, so you don't get too much squeeze out with the glue, especially in the where the cross crosses itself, as it were. So I only put like a dab in the middle of those joints. It's important. It's a really important joint because this is what really gives it all its strength. So before we fit it all together, I prep the end miters with glue. So I can take my time here as well, I won't be rushing. So just carefully really squidge that glue into the end grain. Not too much again, because we don't want a huge amount to squeeze out. Because it's a miter joint and end grain, I apply glue to both sides of the miter. So just a really thin bit of glue to both sides of the miter, really paying attention So next comes the tricky part of threading the interlacing pieces through. Just go be careful that you don't smear glue all over your wood. So yeah, no big drama if you do. Just means a bit more sanding for you when you're finishing to remove that glue. Once it's nice and snug in the jig, we can start to clamp and get it all centered. So next comes my favourite part. This is where once the glue is cured, we can remove it from the jig and pat ourselves on the back, admiring our handiwork. So yeah, just this was probably the best one I've done so far. Very little work required to finish it off. It's probably the quickest one I've done. A lot smoother. In the sense of cleaning up the miters. See if you can see the miters on these. Well, they've come out lovely. All uniform because they're on the CNC, so can't really go wrong as long as I set them up quickly and the work holding is correct. So yeah, huge learning curve on the CNC side of things. Also, the sanding of the material. I mean, this cross was designed for 10mm thick across this width, and I've sanded off basically 1/2 mil. So technically speaking, I got like a mil gap. But I think that actually accentuates the fact that it's woven. So I quite like that. The glue that we had on, the glue that we had in the like squash out glue epoxy, that came out fine, wasn't any problems, sounded really well, really easy, easiest one I've done so far really. Drilling this 5mm hole in the bottom, it's difficult, tricky, because you need to keep that perfectly perpendicular in in all the axes, because you don't want the cross standing on the plinth at an angle exaggerated. It's quite tall, so these holes are out even a smidging. They're going to be it's going to show on the final. So I did a small jig for the pillar drill to drill these, but what I will do in future is I'm going to do a jig for the CNC. So once I've cut these blanks, I'll just drop them in a jig on the CNC, and I'll come and just drill the hole perfectly square in the bottom of that, which is brilliant. Similar to what I did with the bases. You'll see on the bases I drilled that while we were cutting the blank for the base. So yeah, and then I've got some 5mm. I think it's probably bright drawn steel. It came from a printer. I'm one of those people who hates throwing things away, so whenever I have a printer that needs to go on the tip, I always rub all the bearings and the rods out. So I've got loads of this bar, which is really handy, and that just basically pushes in there, and that just pushes it there and just raises up 10. I really like the fact that you can remove the cross if you want to put on the wall or hold it, and also because it's it's a 3D thing, you can look all the way around it. And then on the last two I did, I actually engraved what was it, love, faith, peace, grace on the base, just on here. So I thought that worked out quite well. I need to work on my V-carve CNC works. I mean, it was very deep, very obvious. I don't want to distract from the cross with the base, but I do want something on here. I mean, it's quite nice, just plain, but also we might be able to personalize it for people down the bottom. So I might put maybe a dove on here representing the Holy Spirit, a fish on the back representing Christianity, maybe Alpha and Omega, on the sides. In the end, I opted for some of my favourite Bible verses, which I engraved using VCarve. Now, VCarve is something that I haven't actually used all that much, and I have a huge amount to learn. The carving seems to be coming out quite clunky, quite a lot of tear out, so I need to do some experimenting and practicing with that. So here's some images and video of the final job. Came out really well. Finishing was simply seal coat and some polish, some wood wax. Thanks for watching.